Hello, everybody. Today is Tuesday, March 7th, and this is another edition of the MSP Initiative Live, and we are live in Orlando again. Yes, Ken, Orlando. So, as you can imagine, many events throughout the calendar year in MSP land are here in Florida and Orlando area.
For obvious reasons.
Yes. So anyway, we're here at Exchange, channel company CRN Exchange. They have two of these. Actually, there's more than two.
They
There's
do two exchange events that are sled in the regular exchange. Then they do exchange next gen, which is in October, I believe.
Then there's like a security one.
Then they do a security exchange security, which is in Dallas. And then they have others like MES and what's it, Bob.
Yeah. So sure, I'm sure everybody's run into the channel company somewhere or another. But yes, here we are in Orlando. We're actually in a time where like the area is a little bit quiet, so we decided to use it as our recording space. But as no surprise, many conversations happening. But let's get some housekeeping before we get too far into this. MSPinitiative.com. This and every other session we've recorded will be there under the sessions tab. We have our MSP community block parties, which are progressing, I promise you, and they will be interesting, and you don't want to miss them. So stay tuned for those. We have our MSP community minds events coming up this year, two of them. The dates may change, but we are doing two in-person events. We're bringing specialists from around the community, and we're going to have them, do more than PowerPoint you. Yeah. And then lastly is the community offers. So if you go to the mspinitiative.com under community offers, you'll see, I think we have 3 posted, but I think there's another half dozen coming, and just vendors from around the industry trying to do something a little special for of what they're offering. And that's the housekeeping stuff. There you go. So not often do we get to do this live in the same place. But Ken, you've done a lot of these over the years. I know for anyone that hasn't done like the MSP 500 list, or there's like, 3 or 4 different like ranking lists for MSPs out of the channel company. And those are largely a lot of the people that show up to these events, right? People who, get listed and ranked, top one, I think one's 250, one's 500. But it's nice to see a handful of familiar faces, a lot of new people here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the beauty of this, is being able to introduce new, MSPs that have never done this before to the space, so that they understand that, when you talk about community, it's about getting into every community, going to events where MSPs are going to be that you maybe never met before, also getting to see new vendors and talk to folks like George and myself. And it's a, and I've been doing this, for way longer than I could. We were just talking about an event 10 years ago that I was at, and I've been doing the exchange thing and the next gen thing forever. And as an MSP, I did it for many years. I sat on the exchange advisory board, and then also when I switched over to PAX8, clearly PAX8 has a large presence here, and they do this. So coming to Taylor Business, it was the first move I made, was to get back in here, and it's been amazing. The MSPs that have never been here before, you definitely feel like you're drinking from a fire hose. There's a lot to take in. There's a lot to do. If you don't know what these guys do, they actually pay for everything. They pay for your hotel. They pay for your flight. They pay for your food. They cover everything to get you here. So it's really cool, but they expect it's just like anything else, give and take, right? They're going to do all that, but you have to attend all their sessions, and most importantly, the boardroom sessions. But it's well worth it. I built my MSP on the things that I learned at these events. And, I learned about EOS at these events. I learned about some operational things I was doing wrong. And I also gained a large group of friends just by being at these events.
Yeah. I mean, listen, a little bit of, I think I was talking to a lot of people yesterday, but one guy was like, it's great to be able to like ideas, against each other, and like creates that, kind of, open conversation that I think for years I still run into people who say, "Oh no, they're my competitor," and
We
I'm
still
like,
do too. Yeah. From
I'm like,
even the coaching perspective, we run into that.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you got to drop the castle mentality, man. Like, fill in the moat, walk around, talk to people. A lot of people out there in this business, doing the hard work. And I said this a lot of times yesterday. IT services, managed services business is a hard business.
Yeah.
This is not an easy business. I mean, if you want an easy business, you could sell hot dogs in the corner. That's easy.
Right. Florist.
I mean,
Make
florists,
people happy just hand flowers.
well, until it's Valentine's Day.
Well, then you're busier. It's not bad.
But I'm just saying, I didn't say it was an easy business. But anyway, no, it's definitely nice to hear people, like I love how people have gotten into the mode of like, oh, hey, I'm from this company in this area and I have this many endpoints under management. It's like this, it's like in the talk track. And I'm starting to hear people say like, hey, we're at 4, 5, 6, 7,000 endpoints. And you're like, wow, it's starting to go, progress in the other direction.
Right.
So it's nice to see people actually like, not getting stuck in place. I think that's one of the things that we hear a lot, right? People just hit a ceiling and they just coast.
Yeah, 100%. And you're right. It is interesting to bump into MSPs who are not talking about that first million. Although we all know how difficult that is.
Very hard.
Everybody's heard my story where I was literally going to take 10 grand out of my own pocket to make the million because we were at 990 for the longest that year trying to get through it. But it's still, and listen, there's plenty of MSPs out there that are at that point and they need help. And that's why you come to things like this to learn and figure it out. And then you get into groups like Taylor Business Group and, you start to sign up for things and that are going to get you to the next level. But this trip, a lot of the conversations were not about that first million, but were about staffing at the rate that they're going right now. Because they're growing so fast, they can't keep up with the staffing. And it's not so much the feet on the street thing, because I've been hearing a lot about remote workers from like the Philippines and other places that is working out fairly well for folks. And if you can do it, you're actually supporting an ecosystem over there too. That's pretty amazing. It's not like slave shops like people think it is, but it's the feet on the street, right? You're in Dallas and your business doubled, and now you need some feet on the street and you need a body, and struggling with that now more than ever.
Well, it was interesting. At dinner last night, I was talking to a guy who is part of I call them platform MSPs, or that's what they're called, right? Where they're doing a lot of acquiring of MSPs.
Kind of like a master MSP.
Yeah, or just somebody that's venture back that's like trying to grow by acquisition. And we've heard a lot of this, right? There's about 20, 25 companies in this mode right now that have a lot of VC money behind them. But anyway, long story short, they want to retain. It's funny, when they acquire an MSP, they want to retain 100% of the staff, including the owner.
Yeah.
They don't like the owner walking away. And I was actually kind of shocked. We've all heard of all of these different, deal structures when you're doing these things.
Right.
100% cash up front.
That's different.
100% cash up front. Now they give you the opportunity to buy back in to the larger company.
Right.
But they're literally handing you a check, no earn out, no 3-year, no, split situation, just wire you the money in full. I've never heard of that.
Well, and some of these companies have actually gotten so big and have acquired so many companies, they're acquiring very large EBITDA numbers before they even talk to some of the MSPs, which is crazy to me, because some of the numbers I heard were almost out of the atmosphere. And they were saying, no, seriously, 90% of the business we're not going to accept unless it's over this much EBITDA. It's like, wow. So they're looking for mature MSPs too. Not all of them, but I was surprised to see some of the bigger ones were actually saying, nope, we're not going down that. We're not going to go down that stream anymore. We're going to move upstream and we're going to start hitting the more mature ones. Obviously, if you buy a more mature one, it's much easier to have it keep running while you own it and move it forward and build. If you're going to build it into the existing fold, then great, but then it also can run on its own.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear that. I don't want to give the name because I'm not trying to knock anyone, but last night at dinner as well, somebody's like, well, what about this company, right? And it was a company that was buying like $1.5 million, sub-$1 million MSPs, and then like they kind of disappeared, right? They made like 10, 12 acquisitions, and then you didn't hear from them again. So it's hard to roll up companies.
Well, yeah, we know that. I mean, the good ones that did it, usually it worked well because they all had similar PSA, they had similar accounting packages. So it was easier. And they, by the way, they were in a peer group, or they were already working together. It was more of, wait, we're not just buying someone that we don't know. They knew each other for the last 10 years. Instead of a handshake, it was a hug, is the way that they was explained to me through some of these companies that did that.
But that only gets you to a certain point. At some point, you have to go outside of that bubble.
No, I get that, but I'm saying the reason why those ones were even as successful as they were is because they didn't have that, because you know as well as I do, even the large acquisitions, even at the vendor level and the high PEs, the things that get in the way are like the accounting departments and the billing and trying to tie their systems together. And it never really works out that well, to be honest.
Well, it's the number one thing we hear every time.
Right.
Why is my bill screwed up?
Yeah.
No, but it's not just, I mean, there's an escalation to that. My bill's screwed up, but I can't reach anyone to fix it.
Right. Right.
Like, it's okay if there's a screw up, as long as they can get a hold of someone and like make progression, there's a resolution. Like, if you call your credit card company and you can't get a hold of anyone, there's a problem, right? Like, at the end of the day,
It's like the airlines.
well, unless you're Frontier Air, as we said, who deleted their phone number, and now you can't even call them. This was a horrible idea, by the way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
True.
I'm gonna keep saying it until they change their mind. Not that they're listening to this podcast. Yeah, listen to the wise. Don't delete your phone number. Yeah, but like being able to, that's the number one thing. Like, there's price. Everybody always talks about price. I understand. Quite frankly, it's not even the number one conversation anymore. It's how easily can I get a hold of someone, and do you pick up your phone? Honest to God, it's actually not good. It's a bad sign.
Yeah, it is.
So, so that's part of what we're hearing out there. I've heard some other people. I mean, obviously, I was talking to a guy literally over here, and he's like, I feel like everybody just took the word security and put it onto their, whatever, backdrop, banner, whatever.
Right.
And like, they're not even like, what does that mean? Like, it's now like, it's such a vague term now. You don't even know what that means.
I'm just looking around right now. We're surrounded by things that say security.
I mean, but like what kind of security? Do you have to go like the next step now? And it's like, well, is it endpoint security? Is it email security? Is it, encryption, whatever? So it's kind of interesting that is clearly the buzzword.
Who knew such a simple word would get? I mean, remember cloud? It's been around for 20 years, but they found a name like cloud, and all of a sudden it became super sexy.
Good marketing people somewhere.
Well, yeah, they know exactly what the market wants, apparently, but I think cloud had been called maybe, I don't know, 13, 14 other iterations of cloud, .NET being one, all the different things, and nothing ever stick. It was just nerd talk, and then all of a sudden, cloud. Seriously.
Yeah, I know.
And security, we've all been talking about security forever, but you're right, there's different iterations, and now it's even more important to talk about, the actual, certifications and levels of security. And, you got all these acronyms, right? Your CMMC, CIS, CGIS.
But here's the problem. The average decision maker at any business in America, they have no idea what these terms mean.
Right.
Cloud was easy to understand. All these other terms, they have no freaking clue.
It's true.
And by the way, we're all listening, right? I saw Wes Spencer and a couple of people talking about the new White House directive where they're trying to like shift liability to the service provider instead of the actual end company, which I think is ridiculous, by the way.
Of course it is.
And I'm like, no average business, or maybe even a more than average business, is going to be watching that.
No.
They have no clue. And like, to be honest with you, I'll go a step further. I know exactly what's happening. Every year, the insurance company shows up with their, growing question list. And then they figure out, well, who do I got to talk to get this questionnaire filled out? And then it opens up Pandora. That's what happens. Other than that, I haven't heard nothing.
Yeah, it's it's very interesting. And it all boils down to, who do we want to do this, the government or us? Because we know what happens when the government does it.
No, we don't, because nothing happens.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it doesn't sound like legislation's coming down anytime soon. It just sounds like these are the guidance that's being put out, but like, it's not actual concrete in writing passes the law, whatever. So, I started when I started this podcast and I said, the IT services MSP business, it's a hard business.
It is.
But it's getting harder. It is.
It is.
Because like, if you don't have someone in your organization now who's at least the manager of your security vendors, you're already behind. I'm not saying you have to have a security practice running in your internal employee set.
You do not.
But I'm just saying, like, if you don't have somebody who's at least managing the vendors that you outsource to, you're already in trouble. I don't know. But I was at Write a Boom a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Like, actually, to be honest with you, the last 30 days in terms of IT channel events it's been pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So we had Super Bowl. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. You had Write a Boom. You had Nerdy Ocon in Cancun, which by all accounts is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard the Wi-Fi might have been a little slow, but they're on Mexico time.
Right.
And then we have Exchange.
Yep.
And I believe in a week from now, there's CompTIA in Chicago.
Yep.
So it's like for March, February, March, pretty busy.
Yep.
More than I would expect. But anyway, so is that Write a Boom? On the left, I took a couple of people out to dinner. Surprise, surprise. On the left-hand side of the table, I have a guy saying, yeah, we're averaging like $70 an endpoint. On the right side of the table, I have JP who's like, how do you make money at $70 an endpoint? He's like, I'm like $200 an endpoint, like 175, 200. And I'm like, at $70, there's no way you're delivering any security. That or you're just not making any money.
Well, what was the answer?
The answer
that was his full stack, $70 an endpoint.
The answer is that like they were adding security a la carte.
Okay.
Instead of bundling it into the cost. And even still, when they added security into the cost, they were still sub 100. They were like right under 100. And I'm like, I don't think that's profitable. So there was a little bit of learning there, but like you're hearing people now talking 250, 275, 300 a seat.
Yeah.
And like not blinking. Is that, I don't want to name any marketing companies out there that like, oh, if you're not charging X dollars per seat,
500,
like,
600, 700, 800. Oh, sorry.
1,200, 1,800. No, but like really, like you're talking to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is that what is 300 reasonable?
Well, again, look, we know what is attainable. We know what you can get for your dollar, right? So let's take that. I think that the MSPs, sure, they can be arranged there if they know their cost, their real cost, and then they decide what they want to mark it up. That's cool. But at 70 or even 100, looking at the tools that I see out there, I don't see there's a way to do that and have any kind of profit built in. So that's why I don't go crazy when someone says, one person says 175 and the other person says 300. It depends on their stack, how thick it is, what they're doing, and then what their margin is on top of that. So the first thing is MSPs have to learn what their margins are, break down their costs, understand their profitability.
But it seems like it's like we're building rocket science here to figure it out.
No,
like,
I think what's happening is a lot of people are just basically hearing what other people charge and say, hey, I should charge that. But they're not actually looking at where real costs are. You see that happen all the time. It's a continuous, well, I guess the market is now 200 endpoints. So that's what I'm getting. That's great. But do you know if your tools cost 190? You know what I mean? So the bigger thing is figuring out what your actual costs are. Then you can decide what you want to mark it up and what that number is. The only reason that it comes up when someone talks about 70 is you and I know there's not many tools you can get, and especially on the security side, that can do that.
That or you're not charging enough for labor.
And they also said to you that they were doing the security a la carte, which is fine. But if you're doing that, if that security a la carte's only $35 more an endpoint, it should be looked at.
Yeah, and George just hit up on something that is the real important factor, and that's the tool costs are insignificant. It's the cost of labor to manage the thing.
Right.
That's the big killer in all this stuff. Oh my gosh, I can go through and I can sell that backup solution for $5, but it cost me $150 to manage it throughout the month.
I mean, labor cost is no joke. If anything, that should be the one thing everybody's paying attention to the most. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of cool tools out there that can help you understand on a customer by customer basis what your situation looks like monthly, not even quarterly, yearly. I'm talking about like, did you make money off this customer this month? Here's a problem. A lot of people, and this is not necessarily a problem, it's just the nature of business, right? You have these grandfather customers in, they've been charging the same way for a long time, and they paid their bill, and maybe they're not, the pain in the ass customer that we all talk about. And then but you never went back and actually trued them up, right?
Right.
But then you're trying to grow the new customers like this over here, and then there's an imbalance, right? So when you go back and do your profitability, you see, a rolling scale, newer customers to older customers in terms of what your profitability margin is, like it's different, but
It doesn't matter if those customers are a pain in the ass or not. If they're not profitable, you have to have the conversation,
yeah,
right? So I get what you're saying, because believe me, you get comfy, right? We're getting a check every month and they don't really bother us. But if you look at the bottom line and figure out that it's not profitable and it's just, it is a problem, it's bringing your total profitability down, you have to fix that. And of course, you don't have to go right at them and fire them. There's ways to do this easily. Come with them to them with a plan. Sometimes you'll find that people are very open to rising their prices because they don't want to lose you. But a lot of the MSPs are afraid to even have that conversation. And then if you are going to do it, we talk about books like the Pumpkin Plan that show you ways to offload those customers that aren't fitting your new model and how you're doing
well,
things.
you talked about back in the day, you would actually recommend them to somebody else.
Oh yeah, I would find another company that was willing to take on that liability, whatever. And
That guys, it's not a hard conversation.
right.
In fact, before I understood all these concepts, when I bought this MSP, and I discovered afterwards we were minus 2% net profitability when I bought it, right? And so I just went through and I analyzed every one of our clients by profitability and I sorted them. Now, did I know the exact true cost of everything? I didn't know exactly, but if somebody was, showed up on the model at 30% underwater, I'm pretty sure they're not profitable. So I would just go and have that conversation and say, "Hey, dear client, we love you as a client. We've been doing business for a long time, but I got a problem. And so how are we going to fix this? We either got to reduce the noise, reduce the scope, or you pay me more. What do you say?" And I just did that rinse and repeat quarter after quarter. I'd pick a handful of clients. It took 4 years to do it, but we, remedied the situation. And it's amazing what happens when you stop the bleeding of those people that are 50% underwater.
Did you lose any customers when you had the conversation?
Yeah, a few. And really what happened, because, we're really nice guys, what happened is we still kind of bent over backwards, but those clients that really weren't a fit, they ended up going away on their own over the years because they just knew what it was like before of how much service they got.
Yep.
And they weren't happy, and so some of those, they went away to other MSPs and then they came back and said, "Hey, we found out the grass wasn't greener on the other side. We'll pay you double what we were before now and be happy about it." So
that's cool because like not all MSPs are created equal. We know about operational maturity level
Yep.
and all that jazz. But here's a problem. Let me ask you a question, Bruce, because like you actually bought an MSP. You didn't start from the ground zero. So that's kind of nice because at least you had a running vehicle, right?
yeah.
So when you went before you bought the company, when you were doing your due diligence, did this conversation come up and like in terms of I'm sure there was books and financial shared and all that jazz like there usually is in an acquisition, like of anything, but like when you went and looked at the original due diligence, was it obvious that the company was not making money, and then did that play into how much you ultimately paid for the business?
It was a little bit of a different situation because actually I worked, we all worked together, and the original owner, he wanted out.
Okay.
And our hand was up against the wall. So there was actually a competing bid that came in, and it was no matter what it's worth, they got money on the table. So we had to match that.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, and listen, even if you did your due diligence or weren't forced into this, what you did after the fact is the most important piece. You guys really did a great job turning that around. And yeah, you say it took 4 years, but you know what? If you never start, it never gets done. And being able to go in there, analyze it, check it. And again, you probably could have did that beforehand if your hand wasn't forced, but these things, when they're working, even if they're working at a low profitability, if they're working and running and they're able to stay above water, it only takes.
But if he was in the business, right? If you talk to techs on the front line,
yeah.
They know what customers don't want to pay, and they know the customers that had fixing things.
Sure.
So did you probably have an inkling, Bruce, on those? I'm sure you did.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had an idea. I wasn't back before I became a true majority owner. I didn't have true visibility and I didn't have the understanding really. That's what it's been a great journey, just understanding financials and margins and, versus markup over the past several years. But Yeah, I mean, we all knew those PIA clients and the ones that, don't like to pay. But the point was, it was still a benefit, even though we were underwater, having a mature company that has a client base was such a big benefit because, all those vendor relationships are set up, the clients are already there. It's a great place to start from. Even if, we were slightly underwater, we could come in and fix it. And we did the emergency things. We all took pay cuts so that we could shore it up. And then we just went out and started talking to clients.
So how long ago was that?
5 years ago.
All right. So it took you until last year to finish cleaning up all of the back mess, right?
Yeah. It took 4
conversation.
years. It took 4 years.
So have you added any new customers since?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that was the other thing. In hindsight, actually, I don't know if it would have been better. In hindsight, because it's always, rosier looking back, you forget about things. We talk about, hey, we should have just, burned the bridges and cut all the old clients and cut them off and just focused on new clients. But I don't know if that really would have worked or not, because clients don't fall out of trees into your lap.
This is true.
And if you've got somebody paying, it's a lot easier to keep that client and slightly bump them up. And we did, we had various strategies where I go to some clients and say, hey, we're 50% underwater, but I don't want to hit you with it all in one time. So how about we do a tiered? This first year, you give me 10% of it, yada, 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 until we get you up to a true. That worked for some. Others said no. Others said yes, and then eventually left. But most, I'd say the vast majority, probably 80%, stuck around and paid.
Okay. Well, that's good.
That's real good.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, cash flow is king. I mean, I don't care what business. I don't care if you're running a water ice stand or an MSP. Like, cash flow is king. And to your point, you made a good point. Hey, if you have money coming in and you can find a way to get it, like, make it work, you'd rather keep that cash flow coming in if you can.
True.
To a point. Like, if you're losing money on it, obviously not. But cash flow is king. And quite frankly, the more cash flow you have, better off every business is. And I think that a lot of MSPs stretch themselves and end up borrowing money when they're, obviously if they don't know they're under, but at some point somebody looks at the bank account and says, well, I have more money going out than I have coming in and I'm underwater, right? The problem is a little bit of incongruency on how you're buying these products from the vendors too, right? And we hear this all the time, right? I don't want to sign a 5-year deal, 3-year deal, 2-year deal, because my customer it's not aligned properly, right? Because now my customer may be on like this, renewal cycle or this situation, or a lot of MSPs have hey, based on the size of your company, if you wanted to opt out, you can opt out anytime, but here's the amount of time we need to offboard you, right?
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we're starting to hear, and we heard it last night again at dinner. There's a lot of people at that dinner. We heard it last night at dinner that like there's like an alternate stack kind of being built of all of these products that don't lock you into, the 3-year plan. So here's the problem. And so many problems in this business. A lot of the products in that stack, the customer doesn't even see.
That's right.
It's just the things that you use on the back end to run the business, but the customer doesn't give a crap.
Nope.
They just need to make sure that their stuff's working. If they need help, they can get a hold of you. That's what's in their mind, right?
But now with liability and things of that nature, you have to actually share, at least have it in the agreement, right? Just that basically points to where the liabilities fall.
I mean,
That's the new way of this is all falling down.
isn't that really just the terms of the contract?
Yes,
I
but
mean,
you're
really?
still tying to that. I agree. I mean, my whole philosophy was stop talking about the product and start talking about the solution and just make it about the solutions. When you start talking about tools and toys and all that, they don't listen. All they hear is tools and money. That's all they hear. And that's not a good conversation to have. When you're saying, wait, you have problem X, Y, and Z, and I have a solution for X, Y, and Z, that's all they care about.
Yeah, and price.
Well, yeah, but it's easier to talk about price when you're talking about solving a problem instead of selling a tool.
Fair.
Yeah, that's key. That right there. Find the problem.
I don't think
price matters as much as vendors are gonna start having to give value. I mean, really give value. They said they want a 3-year contract and support goes away, innovation goes away. They're not staying up. You're going like, if they want long-term contracts, they need to be bilateral, not unilateral.
I think I saw Keith mention this on a post I saw on LinkedIn yesterday, where he's
Yeah.
like, you should have the ability to charge your vendor back when they don't do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Could you
If
imagine?
if I miss a dispatch, I'm charged.
Really?
Oh, yeah. What do you think? That's why I charge so much for the product. Right? And if you're a contractor and you miss a date, you're charged.
Yeah.
Vendors can just go, oh, well, I'll answer your ticket in 6 weeks. And you're going like, when they have an outage, it's on them.
Could
And
you
so-
imagine sending an invoice to your vendor?
I think we should just try it. I think we should get some MSPs to try it.
Just start
The
sending
minute something
invoices?
goes wrong, send an invoice. It's not a
I
bad
doubt
idea. It'd be a
these
trend.
3-year contracts would hold up in court, not in California court. I would say, here's your outages. Here was the SLA you promised. Here's what you delivered. You breached the contract.
Do they give an SLA anymore?
Yeah, it's on there. See, and it's something Bradley Gross and I have debated many times. Contracts do not override the material representations you made to get the deal.
But what happens in the beginning of the contract when it says nothing that we talked about before this contract is valid? Only this contract is valid.
Tough shit. Change your advertising.
Okay, so that'll still hold over in California, Keith?
Oh, I've seen it hold. I told you about the court case where that young individual, all they were bringing up was his website. Period. You advertised this on your website. You said you were a computer doctor. You, said you would secure the network, and you didn't do shit. Period. And everything in the MSA and the
I wish
contract.
this court case was recorded, like court TV, you know? And, like we could go back and like watch it again.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's gonna happen it happens all the time. Why would MSPs or technology be different than any other business?
Sure.
You see that happen in car lemon laws. You read your auto contract, it basically says, we could sell you a piece of crap and get away with it. And the courts have said, no. There's implied and explicit warranties, and no one reads a contract to its fullest. The world knows that.
Hey, Keith, is that term, the concept of equitable value exchange? And if there's not an equitable value exchange, then the contract doesn't hold.
Right, you can't, and that goes with a lot of what these vendors are trying to pull. We had you sign this contract for XXXX, and you're going, wait a minute, you agreed to supply something too. There has to be an exchange of value, and you're providing none.
isn't it dollars for service?
It's an implied service, yes, not dollars just because I sold you a little tool to put in your bat belt. No, it's for service that has to be working. And now, they're hosting it, and a hosted site's down, you're going like, that's an outage. Look at what they've done with cable companies. You can charge them back for an outage.
You can?
Yes,
Where is that?
California definitely, and other states too.
Not in any states I've been in recently. I mean, I didn't know that. So what do you send them an invoice?
You just, if they have an outage over a reasonable time, you can charge back for service. We just had in our city, and they won in the local court, where the city-owned municipality was constantly 2 to 3 days late on picking up trash.
Oh,
The local court ruled people can have a refund. You have to
Did they pick up
supply
the trash
value.
on time?
Yeah. And I think, by the way, if MSPs stick up and just start saying, no, you're not going to dictate. The problem is we're not very unified in that regard, and we should be. You're going like, you can't just call the shots and expect us to sit there and say, I'm going to pay for your piece of garbage product that was outdated 2 years ago because you haven't updated, because you went into the equity market. Now you're just run by CFOs. It's the Southwest Airlines story.
Although
that's what-
Southwest Airlines said they're going to spend $1 billion to upgrade their infrastructure, their technical IT infrastructure, so that whatever happened over Christmas time doesn't happen again. That's a.
It should have never
that's
happened in the
big.
first place. Southwest Airlines was run by operations people. Follow the history of the company. The CEO and CFO were operations. They decide to make a money play. And those people just look at dollars and cents and say, product has no value. We already have a loyal customer base. And it blew up in their face. And it's the same thing that we should push for, I think, in the business. I don't mind giving a vendor a contract or paying them. And I don't even want to argue about price. Give me what I need to sell, which is value. A consistent value.
That $1 billion makes you feel good?
Billion with a B.
Yeah, but they didn't say over what course of time.
That's true.
So they could tell you, we're gonna invest $1 billion, and then you find out in the fine print that it's over 10 years.
Yes.
So they're not gonna really be better until the 10th year. And then guess what? It's all outdated again.
I mean, if they have another incident like that, at some point there's got to be an exodus.
I would think there already is one. I mean, I think people's patience were short on that anyways. I'm not a big Southwest fan anyways. I'm not standing like, cattle being corralled onto a plane.
I mean, it could be
I'm
Frontier.
with you, Ken. I don't get it. I look at it and I go, you saved a couple $100 on a 3 or 4 hour flight. Does that mean you're a minimum wage worker? I mean, come on, dude. Have a big seat.
But hold on. Let me give you an option. You're a what? United?
I just use an Amex travel, United and Delta. Yeah,
Okay.
both.
So United or Delta, you have to take a layover, Southwest direct flight.
I'm flying to Chicago direct. In fact, I'm going to Chicago next week for CompTIA.
Okay.
I'll be there.
So Southwest had a direct flight out of Ontario,
Okay.
but what do I care? I use a car service to go to the airport.
But the car service will take you to either gate. It's all good.
Yeah. I'll go to
That's what I'm saying.
LAX, where they have a lounge.
One's direct, one you have let's say you had a layover on the airline you want, or direct flight in the airline
I
you
take
don't.
the layover.
I don't have a layover. I'm
Dude,
direct
I don't
flight,
take Southwest ever.
direct flight. What am I flying? Direct flight United into Chicago. Sitting in the George seat, 1A.
Well, sometimes 1A is occupied and I got to be in 22A.
I said, when I make my reservations, they said, how do you want to fly? I said, George style.
Do
Listen
they
to him.
understand what that means?
It's Keith style. Let's just get it
Yeah,
straight.
yeah.
Dude goes to the airport in a limo. I think he gets carried onto the plane. They sit him in his
Oh,
1A
like the
seat.
Farah?
Yep, and they
Okay.
tuck a blanket around him and make sure he's all good. And then they come on the plane and they carry him off.
Wow. That sounds
And then they put him in his limo to the hotel.
sounds nice.
Do you want to deal with those people at the airport?
No, I'm
No.
not saying, I'm just speaking from pure jealousy, Keith.
Oh, no. I mean, it's not worth my stress level. Otherwise, I'll have no hair like, oh, wait, I don't want to mention it.
What's he
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah. Well, if for those of you that follow me on the feeds, I often get stopped at security as we've said many a time. I don't know. Did you hear that?
No.
No. This time I didn't get stopped at security, but everything else didn't go well. Couldn't check in, had to go to the counter. They had to 20 minutes to get my boarding pass, and then went to the rental car place, and then that was jacked up for some reason. I had to redo it, and then went to the wrong address than I was supposed to because it wasn't updated somewhere. And then all of a sudden I'm like, man, this is quite the day. And but security didn't stop me today.
So that's
So-
like,
but you know
it's a
what?
Good day.
It wasn't as bad because security didn't stop me.
Right.
Not gonna lie.
Listen, no rubber glove. It's a good day.
It's not always rubber glove
Oh, every time
every time.
they see you coming, they're like snapping it.
Yeah.
He always gets selected.
But Alec made it to Cancun without getting stopped by the cartel.
Yeah, true.
You know, the one time I went, I was carrying a backpack through, and I forgot that I'd gone shooting the day before.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, residue, right?
No, I had a loaded magazine of Home Defenders, which a loaded magazine is actually considered a loaded weapon. And the guy just was really cool. I'm walking through TSA through, and the guy goes, "Oh, do you have a CCW in California?" And I go, "Yeah, why'd you ask?" I'm thinking like, what a weird question. He goes, "Because you have a loaded magazine in your backpack."
That's funny. I had heard the story of the.
And he didn't do any other
gun
inspection. He
range.
just asked me, he goes, "You want to take it downstairs to your car?" And I called my limo guy and I said, "Would you come up to TSA and pick up a magazine? I'm going to the plane."
Yikes. So I
Nothing-
had heard the story of the gun range, Keith, where they went to the gun range that day, went to the airport, and the residue, the gunpowder residue, was on their stuff, and it caused a whole problem at the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they think I go a lot of, shoot a lot of guns.
No, you don't shoot a lot of guns.
I don't, but
But
I
you're-
definitely get to check.
You're vaguely ethnic.
Uh,
We already
Well-
know that.
I think it's because you're loyal to a team not located in the United States.
Oh,
last time I
Right.
checked, Pennsylvania was in the United States.
probably before Dallas was.
I think so.
Not Philadelphia, no. Once those, that,
Not
Do we have to do a
Philadelphia.
fact check here?
No, we don't. We just know where he's coming from. I mean,
Okay.
this guy's living in the 90s. I mean, nothing's happened there since 96 anyway. So,
no, I don't know if you've heard the news the other day.
What's that?
Stephen Jones says we're winning a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. He actually said that. He said, "I have 100% confidence we're going to win." a
I
I
Super
think it's
winning.
more likely that they'll draft Dak Prescott's eventual replacement in this year's draft.
I think what he meant to say was we're
No,
going to
no,
win.
I think they'd like to try, but I don't think in the rounds they have, there's a quarterback available of that caliber.
It's a heavy draft for quarterbacks.
Yeah, and some of them just dropped because of some of these moves that are happening right now. So
Yeah, I would think you
Number
trade
one,
for.
the kid that was going number one.
Wasn't
now
Dak
dropped.
Dak Prescott in the 4th round?
He was.
He was
Yeah, I
third or
think so.
fourth.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think it's a
that's the luck. I mean, I think really, when your team's older like ours is, like our line, you can't bring in a new. I think the mode you have to take a quarterback off the market.
Oh, so you want Aaron?
What
Rodgers?
happened in Philadelphia? Come on, that was luck, right? You don't normally develop a quarterback that quick. He's a great quarterback. I'm not taking that away. But
What's harder, to develop a quarterback or to grow a grass field?
No, you have to water a grass field, and they were watering it, George. They were watering it.
Have you ever heard of a grass field costing $800,000?
Listen, if it's going to, because you're having $1 billion event and the field is garbage, that's
$800,000 for a field?
embarrassing.
We're not talking about turf. There's not a 25-year warranty on it. We're talking about one game.
And what's the cost on that $800,000 field?
Right.
No, I think usually
Clearly
when
that
you're
800,000
older, you
did
get-
not go to the field.
Yeah, this is like, I'm going to build a new terminal at the airport, 2.7 billion. 2.7 billion didn't get to the actual terminal.
Right.
Maybe 900 million. The rest of it, we know where that went.
Fat pockets.
Yeah. Not $800,000 fields. I don't know. Sade. And you're trying to grow grass on a true desert land. Well, I mean, listen, that's why they're called the sod father, right? I mean, they're effectively, growing grass, watering it. It's probably like in a greenhouse type operation. I don't know. I don't know how you grow.
No,
grass.
it's pretty bitchin'. It rolls out.
No. But before it went onto the tray.
I got an idea.
Yeah.
Don't have the Super Bowl in the desert. I mean,
Well, hold on a second. Would you rather go to a conference in -15 or 70?
no, but you don't have to do Arizona either. You can pick some of the nice places.
You know how this works. These cities bid on that.
Yeah, no kidding. And why would you give it to anything in your right mind to Minnesota, New Jersey? Like, really? First of all, the Super Bowl is an experience. When you go there, you have to have places to go and be able to go walk between.
Oh,
those
they had
places.
ice sculptures in the street, -15.
Yeah, of course they did. Those were people that just got frozen.
They got, they were gonna give San Diego like 4 out of the next 12 Super Bowls if they had built a
Yeah,
new.
but they were also screwing the people of San Diego, so they told them to go screw themselves because they were making more money off Comdex than they were off the NFL.
Yeah,
And that's what their stadium does now, is Comdex events.
What, the old
The-
Qualcomm?
no, not Comdex, what's the Comic-Con?
Comic-Con.
That's what they do.
that's torn down.
Had to find good sound. You could say,
Uh,
It's a brand new San Diego State
you
Stadium.
guys know James from Acronis? He's in the
Yes,
house.
I do.
How are y'all doing?
Good. Yeah, Qualcomm Murphy is now the Aztec SDSU home field, built back to about half the size. It's about 30,000.
I heard the stadium's still there.
It is still there.
No, it's not. My
Oh, it's
daughter
gone?
went to school. It's gone.
San
Look
Diego.
online, look on SDSU online. They opened it this year. They tore it to the
Interesting.
ground and it's just a brand new college stadium. Only.
Well, it's the first city to really stand up to the NFL because everybody else just caved when they say, we'll bring Super Bowls here, we'll do this, we'll do that.
Yes, we do.
I mean, they lost an NFL franchise. That doesn't happen often.
Yeah, but they didn't just lose it, they gave it away.
They lost. They gave away the Clippers too. When they
Did they?
let the San Diego.
Yeah,
they,
I
when
didn't
they
know
let
that.
the San Diego.
It's
floor,
too bad
remember
though,
that was
because quite honestly, San Diego is a great place to see a Super Bowl.
yeah.
I don't
And
know.
the Clippers used to have a real nice arena.
Listen,
It's a little close to the border.
even here, even Houston.
Have you ever crossed the border to go into Tijuana?
I don't
Yes.
do, like my kidneys right where they are.
Yeah. Yes, Keith said yes.
Of course.
Speaking about crossing the border, I came back from a trip in Tijuana where I was down there for an extended period of time. I walked across with a rolling luggage suitcase at midnight. And they just said, come on in. I'm like, do you want to check my ID or anything? Like, nah, we trust
That's going
you.
into Mexico.
No, coming back in the United States.
When was this?
That was it was before 9/11. It was,
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, it was before 9/11. It was in the late 90s, but I couldn't believe it even still back then.
I remember going into Mexico. You just go through a turnstile, some dude there with
Yeah.
a machine gun, and then you see taxi cabs lined up, and that's it. I mean, it's easy to get in.
Not for you.
We used to go to when we were in high school. We used to go to Mexico all the time. Just walk across the border.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's an MSP right on the border that half his team speaks Spanish and they have business in Mexico. And we were just talking to this guy and I'm like, this just sounds dangerous. And he did say there's some extra things they have to do for security to get where they're going. And I was questioning whether it was worth it just from a liability standpoint, but he had a whole team. They were on the border. They were so close to the border. We could literally see the other side. We could see the airport, the top of the tower. We were very close. And they still go in and out now to these days. Of course, they have, all the proper information, but it's still, I was like, nope, I wouldn't do that.
Did he charge
Yeah.
a surcharge for going across?
They have charges for all of it that are built in. Yeah, because and the other side doesn't care because apparently they can't get that level of service over there. Obviously, it's just not as organized. So these guys have these special deals and they're going in. They're not going like just over the border. They're going into the jungle. They have special vehicles. There was a whole bunch of stuff he was talking about.
I thought for a second Bruce was on like Narcos Mexico. He was like, I gotta have to go look at the cast list and see if he's in there.
Yeah, it literally used to be no big deal. We would
Yeah.
go to high school all the time. You'd go down to Mexico, you'd buy fireworks, drink, walk across the border.
Well, you could say one thing about crossing the border. At least Mexico's not flying any balloons.
They are, but they're just a carnival type.
Oh, I see.
They pop when they get that high.
Well, one thing's for sure. It is definitely becoming a little bit more competitive on the we're in the traffic zone. It's definitely becoming a little bit more competitive in terms of connectivity down on the other side of the border.
Oh, yeah. He didn't say that
I
wasn't a
mean Keith's talking about charging back the cable company, but I mean on the other side it's actually pretty good high speed.
problem. You guys can come say hello. Come on. What are you talking about, George's? You guys got a little.
Yeah, a little stubble.
No, we're live, but you guys come say hi.
With
So
some
how
guy-
is
We got some
it?
famous people coming in. We got Charlie Tamale.
we got Adam
We
from
got Adam
yeah.
Slutskin. Look at these guys.
Hey, guys. Got the flow right here.
Yeah. What's up, man? Hey, all right. Yeah.
you staying tonight?
No, we're headed,
leaving?
I'm taking Charlie to the airport. Yeah, gotta crack back to the north and freeze a little. Anyway,
Yeah,
I definitely, well, you're going to Chicago next week.
Yep.
And then the week after you get back to Chicago, I'm going to London.
yeah, no London for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty sure it's still chilly over there.
Might be.
Just a little. But the IT industry never sleeps.
No.
Nope.
That's why Keith was busting us saying we look like we're hungover.
I saw that. I mean, Keith doesn't do alcohol. He's more the cigar guy.
Right.
Yeah. Or alcohol and cigars. I think so.
I don't drink much at those events. They don't invite me anymore anyway. It's like,
Your favorite other person in the channel isn't bringing you to events anymore, Keith?
Oh, wow.
no, he only did one.
Only once?
Yeah.
What kind of son is that?
I don't know. Wow.
He only did once, I think.
Okay. Now we know. That was a lot of online fanfare for once. Anyway, I digress. You were telling me about the story where you met a guy here. What was it, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
He had a whole data center, right?
Yeah. It's funny. We talk about like how sometimes people actually listen and you have a conversation. By the way, I didn't even know what the hell I was saying at the time. My thing was about liability, always has been. But about 5 years ago, we were at maybe 6, we were at one of these events and I hadn't seen the guy since then. And then he showed up here and we were talking in the hallway and everybody was kind of chit chatting. I'm like, oh dude, how's your data center going? He's like, oh, funny you should mention that, Ken. After the conversation you and I had, I went back and reevaluated stuff and I just got rid of my last 2 servers in my data center and I've moved everything to AWS. And I was kind of stepped back a little bit. And everybody was looking at me. I'm like, wow. Because we just had a conversation about liability. I don't care about all the things you think you can do, but having a data center of your own in your building, and I don't know, to me, I would worry about the liability. And we had that conversation and apparently he listened. Now this was before cloud all started going crazy and taking off and doing what it's doing. So I'm sure that helped him along the way since he just finished his last 2 in-house servers. But yeah, that was an interesting conversation, thinking that you come to an event, you hear different perspectives, and then you go home and apply it. And
Somebody actually listened?
and now he's actually doing really well with AWS.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Sometimes you talk and people listen.
One time. It's the one. He's the guy.
That's good.
I don't know how people
Good though, Ken.
make money in those, where they're like, you think you're saving a dime and you're wasting all this labor time. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, there are some people that do it really well. And even then, I still say there's still the liability piece, but there are people that I know that have great efficiencies in place, understand how it works. They also get a lot of money from the hardware vendors and they work deals to get covered. And so there is ways to make it, profitable, because I know some people that are doing it very well. But to me, it all boils down to that same thing, liability. At the end of the day, when something happens, whose shoulders does that all rest on? Does it rest on Microsoft? Does it rest on?
So all you're doing is you're using the big company name, shtick. Well,
Right,
you
of
can
course.
sue George running this little
Yeah,
operation.
exactly.
What, you gotta go to Amazon? Good luck.
Right, exactly. And this was back then before we were talking about cloud, so maybe that shifts a little bit, but my whole thing was that, yes, of course, you put that into your agreement, you say, this is who's supplying it, this is how it's being done. It falls right into Brad Gross's whole legal
I
piece, right?
know.
And that was way back then, because for me, it's like, shit, they're already putting so much on us now. I'm terrified of what they put on the MSP space for as far as pushing back
Wow.
and trying to put it on.
Like we said just
MSP
not long
shoulders.
ago, right? They're like, oh, we're gonna make the service provider the person
Yeah,
responsible.
right.
It's like, come on. Oh,
I
Lord.
think Brent was gonna say something there and he.
Go ahead, Brent. Still with us?
Sorry
There
about
you
that.
go. I was
Sorry
thinking he was
about that.
drinking wine.
I
kicking
was
back.
just making a comment back to Ken here when he said that somebody was listening to him. It's like, dude, that's got to make you feel pretty good to have somebody actually listen to your advice
Right.
and then have it kind of make a difference in their business and their life, So anyway, kudos.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's the one, right? I gotta mark it down somewhere and say, at least I did it once.
Yeah, you have more than one win.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I
it's
can,
a,
I
it's,
can,
listen, it's, we all help each other. That's the whole game. That's how it works. If we're not all helping each other, then what are we here? What are we doing it for?
I agree. Well, we're doing it to make a living.
Yes, but
That's
if
for
we're not
sure.
helping each other, we're not gonna do that as well.
I agree. I agree. It's very interesting times. So, good news is a lot of help out there.
Yes,
Not so great news is you need the help because it's getting harder.
right, right.
But I do like the fact that every time you get a lot of smart people in the room and they're willing to open up a little bit, that's where the learning happens. No offense to the boardrooms of the world, but I think we learn more in the hallways. That's me. Or at the bar,
Yes.
or at dinner, or smoking cigars.
Mhm.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up today. Got one more day here in Orlando. We'll keep on doing these Tuesdays, Thursdays, 1 o'clock Eastern time. And stay tuned for what's coming up in the other parts of the year here. But this year opened up with a bang.
Yeah, absolutely. Ready to rock and roll.
I mean, we'll see what it looks like midway, and
Let's hope we don't get run over by 600-pound tables in about 5 seconds.
that's a lot of tables. All right, guys, mspinitiative.com. Stay tuned there. We'll post all these sessions up on there. Catch you on the next one.
All right, great.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.